Hey guys, welcome to Talk Tuesday, a series dedicated to empowering youth and families. This series is brought to you by Steps Foundation Incorporated, where advocacy meets education for the betterment of young minds. Each month, we explore meaningful topics designed to inspire growth, spark creativity, and equip our listeners with the tools they need to thrive. I'm Maya Tasker, your host and peer educator at Steps Foundation Incorporated. This month, we're focusing on a topic that can be sensitive yet so important: mental health awareness. Mental health isn't just something that exists in the background. It's a part of how we think, feel, and connect with others and move through the world too. Yet, many of us are still learning how to talk about it, understand it, and care for ourselves and those around us. This month, we're opening the door to honest conversations about what mental health looks like, how to get support, how to care for your mind like you would your body, and how we can all play a role in breaking the stigma that keeps too many people silent. Mental health matters. Your feelings matter, and you're never alone in this journey. Let's dig in, learn together, and support one another every step of the way. Over to you, Amaya.
Hi, everyone. My first question is, what does mental health stigma look like in schools and communities?
Well, I love this question. Stigma just means that people choose not to talk about something, or they choose to alienate a topic because maybe it's something that they themselves feel like they don't deal with. And so they shun other people from having those types of conversations because it doesn't apply to them. Um, I will say mental health touches everybody. Even when you think you have the healthiest mindset, there's always something mental health related that touches you. Um, every time we have an emotion, that's part of our mental health. Every time we cry, that's part of our mental health. Um, it's just a matter of some of us have a harder time dealing with certain aspects of mental health than others. Some people have a good support system, which allows them to have a healthier mindset and a healthier mental health than others do. And so stigma is simply because we were either taught something that was to be true to us and we don't see another way around it, or because people refuse to talk about something that matters to us. So in the school setting, it could be as simple as maybe that school doesn't have the resource and therefore they don't want to open the door for those conversations, because if they open it, there's no way to contain it. There's no way to provide you the proper resources. There's no way for them to listen and help. So therefore they won't discuss it, and they don't want you to discuss it because they don't have the resources. In our households, it can be a reflection of generational things. Trust is huge, especially in multicultural backgrounds. When it comes to mental health, our people did not trust doctors to help them, hence a stigma, right? We were misdiagnosed. We were told things that weren't true. And so in African American households, don't talk about mental health. Instead, they rather talk about Christianity. Did you pray about it? You could pray it away. And while I'm not saying that praying is not helpful, but we've all heard the saying, prayer without works is dead, right? We still have to be able to put in the work to help ourselves and help each other in order for those stigmas to be combated. Um, and I will even say in some Hispanic cultures and some Indian cultures, not talking about it is because of the things that have happened in the past that have broken that trust for people to be able to have the conversations, and therefore families feel like they can heal themselves. They'd rather not have the conversation. Or in some cultures and some families, when you start talking about mental health, it's because you're sick. There's something wrong with you, or there's something wrong with your family, and they don't want to bring shame on the family. And I will say, there's nothing wrong with saying that you need help. There's nothing wrong with identifying that there is a problem that you need additional resources to. The first step into breaking a stigma is acknowledging that it's a problem. acknowledging that these are conversations that need to be had. And I think that's one of the best things that I can say I love about Talk Tuesday, because we're here with no judgment. We're here to help however we can help. And this alone is helping to break some of those stigmas and break some of those generational cycles of not having the conversation.
I think a group greatly affected by stigma, in my experience, I don't know so much about girls, but I know boys definitely deal with that a lot, a lot, a lot. I have seen, or I've heard more so, not like boys not being able to express themselves fully, show that emotional side, because they don't want to be perceived as weak or it might affect their masculinity. I was gonna actually ask, Smitty about it because I feel like you probably know what you're talking about more than I do on this one.
No, that's that I mean, so I want to answer that question, but I need to circle back before I forget, lose my train of thought. To Sister Ab, what she touched on. The fact, see, when we talk about words, and then how they kind of create our environment, right? So understand this first, because what Sis said is like right on point. However, now we get to the root of all of that. And I heard this valuable thing the other day, bro. He blew me away when he said this. It's people don't create dictionaries. Words create dictionaries. So we can't just make these words up and say, oh, we're going to make them this. The word has to exist somewhere prior to that, right? So when we go to stigma, check this out. Why is stigma attached to mental health? You don't hear cancer stigma, right? You don't hear I mean like the most, you don't hear flu stigma, right? Like all of these, I don't want to say common, but all of these more normalized things that don't affect our inner psyche, because that's the whole thing, right? Before mental wellness became a thing, if you weren't considered normal in the eyes, like Sis touched on, if you didn't fit the normalcy, then you was just put into an asylum, basically, right? And again, I don't want to get too far off subject. I'm gonna get back to that question. But another amazing thing that I heard when I heard Bruh say that about the words in the dictionary, and then to Sis's point of fitting into this normal, they had the Salem witch hunt in the 1800s, basically going after people just because they weren't in the sense normal. So when we start talking about mental capabilities, because they're not stigmas. The only reason it's a stigma is because society placed the word stigma on there. Because I know plenty of young men, I'm gonna try to circle this back together. I know plenty of young men who look and sound like me, myself included. They have the IEP attached to them. They have special ed attached to them. But if you talk to them without knowing them, you wouldn't even know. There's a lot of people walking around us right now, whether you're 5, 15, 25, or 55, who have some kind of challenge with their mental capacity that might, by some standards, be labeled a mental health stigma. But you wouldn't know it unless it's severe, right? Now, again, I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just saying how we treat it to answer the question of the stigma part, right? So we really have to get to that and remove this stigma out and normalize that we all internalize things a different way. There's nothing wrong with that. Like my most beautiful says this all the time when we see individuals who are houseless and they're just walking up and down the street, talking, maybe out loud, maybe to themselves, maybe mumbling, maybe having a conversation with themselves. Arms are moving. And people, society wants to point at them, the stigma, the disgrace, the shame. Oh, look at that. They're crazy, or they're strung out on drugs, or they're schizophrenic. they might be geniuses who can only understand themselves. And why waste my greatness on you who aren't prepared to accept? You can't even understand the degree of the level that I'm at. So understand the word stigma is the problem for me. That's what I'm saying. The mental health challenges exist, they're real, but stigma is the problem, right? To answer the question about men, boys, that was one of my major challenges because, like I said, you're just not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to just put your shades on, cover up your feelings. What did Music Soul Child say? You know, hide behind his Pradas. And you go through life like that, carrying all of this um um un unaddressed trauma, anxiety, guilt, demons, sadness, happiness. There's plenty of times when I was 15 and I was happy, but I couldn't share it because then it would have come off like, dude, you like that? You know what I'm saying? So it is weird. Mental health isn't always negative. It's hiding positive sometimes, especially for young men, because you know, as a young man, if you're around your boys, and I'm just being really hypothetical and really general here. If you're around your boys, you know, I'm just going to, you're in the gym after a sporting event or whatever. You probably feel that's not the appropriate place to say, hey, man, I'm feeling really sad today. Um, you know, so this happened, or, you know, whatever. It's not it, because, and again, you know what, we're suppressing those feelings. Or you might say, or have the ability. I've seen this. I know I'm long-winded, but it's all time. When I used to coach my son's AAU team, we had a kid on the team. I think they were about 10 years old. I didn't know he'd never seen his dad or never seen him like in like years. We're at this game 100 miles away from our hometown, and his dad walks through the gym door, and this kid stopped everything he was doing, ran off the court, hugged his dad. That was powerful, right? And the good thing about my team is they seen it and they was like, hey, yo, Pops, let him go enjoy that time. We ain't got to play. And I really admired them for that. But that's not something I don't think, you know, if you're around this collective group in a setting where it's supposed to be a lot of testosterone going on, that he would just say, hey, man, I seen my dad today and it made me feel great. He might say, hey, yo, I see my pops. But he won't say, hey, I see my father or my daddy, and it made me feel great because I haven't seen him in so long, and he hugged me and I wanted to cry. And like it's that part that we hide as young men because one, we're not introduced to it properly to show how we can accept, you know, express it. And then two, the most essential part of that is I don't believe for the most part young men are taught how to accept when another young man says those things. Because in a group setting, it's, are you serious? What are you know what I'm saying? So it's a dual thing that goes on with young men, and not even just young men, men my age right now who don't know how to express their feelings or do. I wouldn't be comfortable sharing my thoughts with them because I don't want to put that on them and force them in a position where they're not even accustomed to enter into those conversations. So I know that was long-winded, but I think hopefully it all tied together.
It definitely tied in. So thank you for sharing. Um, oof, these are good answers. I'm gonna circle back because I think Abby touched on it a little bit about family and mental health. Um, how can families be more open about mental health at home? Like, what are some good ways for us to get those conversations started, especially if we're in the families, maybe super religious or maybe super like use this, like don't worry about it too much, just pray about it or whatever the method is they're telling you to kind of avoid it.
I want to go first because I was so long-winded. I'm gonna go first and get out the way because it's only gonna take me a couple seconds. This is the great part, young people, that you become, you know, involved and engaged in your family. I know someone mentioned earlier they don't want to speak this evening because they're a little bit shy. Totally fine. That's awesome. But maybe there's a way that you can initiate something in your household, whether you guys have dinner together, whether you guys get taking the car together or watching a movie together, and say, hey, yo, mom, pops, every Tuesday night at 6 o'clock after dinner before bed, we're going to have mental health time. Like, we're just going to talk about, we're not going to talk about my grades or our grades or, or whatever. We're going to talk about, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? You know what I'm saying? What's on your mind? Right. So at my house, we have the vulnerability table. When the vulnerability table is open, that's where you go sit down and you say what's on your heart. And I'm so proud of my family. Most of be honest, most of the times it's just the men, and we sit there. And man, I'm telling you, I've cried a couple times hearing the things that I heard. But it has to start at the house, and then with mom and dad, aunties, uncles, brothers and sisters, and say, hey, listen, for 30 minutes, everybody got to say something that's on their heart. The trick part is you can't be forced. If you don't want to participate, don't participate. And that's totally fine. But hopefully, the more you get accustomed to it, the more now the family wants to engage collectively. So that would be my way, is make it a family thing.
I think that's so sweet, and it's such a good idea because you're encouraging that space, you know? It's one thing to be talking about, oh, there's no space open, but like you make one, you forge it. And I think that's beautiful. I think a really big important step in including families and mental health is also education, I guess, on both ends. For parents, understanding the signs, understanding how to initiate that conversation, and as children, to be able to ask for help, to recognize when you need it, that you recognize that you need to start that. I think it can be a little bit scary including our family in these kinds of things because, again, it's pretty vulnerable, hence the vulnerability table. But there are a couple steps I think that we can take to make it happen.
I love both of these, and I'm gonna tie both of them together. I I'm a huge proponent for when we talk about how do we include families. So parents, older siblings, aunties, uncles, grandparents. It starts with you being able to acknowledge that there are moments that you yourself are vulnerable. And I love that Smitty said that he allows a vulnerability table to where anybody is able to sit down and share for 30 minutes whatever is on their heart. How many times as adults, because I know I'm talking to young adults that are before us, and as adults, me and Smitty, right? Do we sit and say, we cry in silence? And as parents, oftentimes we'll say, well, we cry because we didn't want our children to see us crying. Let your kids see you cry. Because in order for them to understand how to deal with emotion and how to talk about the things that they're feeling, they have to see how we handle those emotions ourselves. And again, look, we know there was no parenting handbook. We did not come with a handbook on how to raise kids. Okay. There is not one out there. And if there is, that's how they raise their kid. It don't mean that's how it's going to work for you to raise yours. So every child is different. Every family is different. Everybody has a different dynamic and it's in a different environment. And so for us to be able to acknowledge, I'm angry. I felt hurt. That's why I'm crying, because I'm frustrated. We got to be able to show our kids that and be able to show them how do they bounce back from that. We've all been disappointed. We've all been hurt by something or someone. But how are we showing that to our kids for them to know that it's okay to experience hurt? It's okay for them to experience that disappointment. It's okay to figure out how to talk it out. And what are the steps that we took? And share those experiences with them, because I'm pretty sure as a parent, we didn't go about it the right way. And that's okay. But in order for them to understand how to deal with it, we have to tell them how we dealt with things in the wrong way. Chances are, even if we're not talking about it, they're seeing it. They see more than we think they do. They understand more than we think they understand. And so what they're going to do is formulate their own opinions. formulate their own thought processes on how we handle those situations. And chances are, whatever that formulation is not the right one because we didn't show them how we went through the steps. So parents, it's okay. Families, it's okay to share with your child or share with your teen or your young ones how you handle hurt, how you experience pain, how you handle joy, because look, the good feelings are just as important as the bad ones, because sometimes we get overjoyed, right? And for some people and in some cultures, when we get overly excited, we get loud. Right? And other people are like, why are you so loud? Well, share with your kids why you so loud. You loud because that's how you experience joy. You loud because that's your way of expressing your excitement for something. And this way, when they're sitting in an environment that is trying to tell them to be quiet because they're joyful about something, they know how to explain it. Because otherwise they don't. They're told to be quiet and they're like, oh, okay, well, that's just the way I talk. But it's more than just the way you talk. It's more than just the way you react. That is genuinely how you dealt with that emotion. And it's because this is what you see. This is how you guys do it at home. So being able to clearly express those things requires those conversations at home. So I love the vulnerability table, Smith. Look, kudos to you for giving your family a space to show up and have those discussions. And again, I'll go back to religion. If praying is what makes you guys closer as a family unit, start that table off in prayer and ask God to come in and help you guys be the voice and the ear while you are sitting at that table, because it's a table where you guys are not supposed to come in with judgment. Parents, this means allow your kids to freely speak about the things that are bothering them and listen. And it's okay to ask them if they're looking for advice or if they just want you to hear them. Chances are they just want you to hear them. They get our advice 24/7. Some days they just want you to listen. And it's okay. So I love that question, and I love that it's that open door, and parents, like this is that great opportunity just to understand what your kids are going through and just to be able to hear them and allowing them that space. So create a safe space. Create a time. Y'all, it can be 10 minutes of time. And as long as your kid knows that they got 10 minutes to share, trust, they'll share it.
That's a great answer. I really, really love that. I'll say for me, I think speaking on the parent part with parents sharing, even in parents sharing how they're feeling, it does do a lot for kids understanding their parents more and understanding how to deal with their own emotions. And I think as I got older and my parents started sharing with me more, it's like, wow, like you're a human being. You're not just my dad or like my mom. Like you really be like feeling stuff. That's crazy. Like there's so many things we just don't see, especially if you had parents that kept things bottled up or like, oh, I didn't want you to know about this or I didn't want you to be whatever. Like it just it humanizes you, it creates transparency, vulnerability, and that's so important, you know. So yes. Okay. I think this is an interesting question. So we'll do this one. How can storytelling reduce mental health stigma? Yeah.
Listen, Smith just did that.
It's true.
And so think about that, right? Smith literally just sat here and told us a story. And all of what Smith said, and he kept going, I know y'all, I'm long-winded. I'm gonna circle it back. And I'm like, bro, take your time. Look, I know exactly where this is going. Let's go. It's the story. And again, this goes back to what you said, Maya, humanizing them, humanizing your parents, right? Sometimes it takes a story in order for our kids to get it. It could be our story. It could be what we've gone through as a story, and now we're telling it to other people. But being able to tell stories allows people to be able to find a way to identify with what we're saying. People are going to identify with different parts. Smith told 3 stories and brought them all back into one. Everybody didn't identify with story 1 and 2, but they might have identified with story number 3. Some didn't identify with story number 3, but they identified with number 1. So storytelling is huge, and not even just our mental health, but in everything that we do in order to get people to identify with what it is we're trying to share with them. And again, those stories can look like, it could be your story. It could be a family member's story. It could be a friend's story. But somebody's story is going to help somebody else to visualize how to carry through with their mental health journey, or even how to speak about their mental health journey. Many of stories ignite a fire in people to feel more comfortable with sharing what they're going through. Look, Caesar, boy, do we miss you, because Caesar's story ignited so many other young people to be able to open up and share their journey, share their story. They were able to identify with different parts and pieces every time he shared. So tell your story. It's your story. Nobody can tell you that your story is wrong. It's your journey, it's your feeling, it's your thought, it's yours. So yes, storytelling is huge, major, plays a huge role in us being able to sit at a table and have a conversation with other people, and have them to feel comfortable enough to share their story with us.
I think a really big part in the stigma around mental health too is that it feels like it can be isolating in a sense because, when you're dealing with all these big problems, you're like, man, I gotta be the only person who's in this situation, feeling this way, thinking this way. Um, I think definitely I absolutely agree with what you said, where it's a way to help people identify with each other. And I think it also ties back into the modeling that we were talking about with parents and their children. If parents are sharing those stories, they're kind of modeling how they reacted in that situation or how they dealt with it. Um, I think it's a good way to connect and also just to learn a little bit what other people are going through. It brings you closer because, you kind of get an insight too. It's that trust that's important. It's that foundation that you're laying with the storytelling. It gets passed down too.
For sure. And storytelling is not nothing new. The history of mankind wouldn't be where we are right now without understanding storytelling. I know you young folks don't believe this, but the internet wasn't always here. So storytelling was how you learn some things. My mother was phenomenal with her stories. I could go on and on about those, but you don't want me to lament on that. But you want to talk about somebody that was poor. I mean, she would put it in such crystal clear words that you understood what level of poor she was raised up. And then my uncle was phenomenal. More of his less of his storytelling was the mental part of understanding what he went through as an older Black man coming up in that time really helped me see some things. Now, granted, I was probably young. I still didn't know how to identify what he was saying to what I was going through, but it had a lasting effect on me to where I could tell those stories to this day, almost verbatim, what he shared with me, and I think, like Maya said earlier about the human part, it kind of makes your parents human when, right now we have the technology. You could see videos of your parents when they were younger, which I don't want my children to see, but you could see those, you know what I'm saying? And so now with our children and my grandchildren and young folks, they're going to be able to have a video catalog of their story, of their life that they can share. Good, bad, or indifference, and so instead of someone sitting maybe at a table or in front of you telling a story, Now we're watching them unfold on TikTok or whatever social media outlet that they're there, you know. But I think for me, storytelling is about the words, right? Words matter. And when you can share a story and almost paint the picture as if it's, you can see it unfolding in your mind, it's going to hit a little bit different, right? Um, when you know, again, trying to understand like therapy and counseling, and I'm not dismissing none of that energy because it's good energy. However, I think the setting almost brings its own stigma if we can go back to that word, right? But if you're around your folks and your family or your uncle, your aunties, your grandparents, and they start to tell stories, I think, and just for me, as a kid, I could see my uncle in the war when he was telling me about the war. I could see my mom in the house with the windows broken and the snow coming in. It's different. It's different. It brings the human side. It brings it home. That and now again, as a young person, will it help? It could. It could definitely help. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's more the long-lasting mental health that goes with the storytelling. You know, you could look. I know for me, because understand storytelling is not just about me telling you story. Songs are storytelling, books are storytelling. I get you. I bet you right now, someone show you a picture when you was 5 years old. You if they show you a picture and you're at a park, whatever, you know what song was on, you know what the weather was like that day. Stories share emotions, and when those emotions, good or bad or indifferent, are then brought to a real life setting, it's almost as if you're transformed back into time to that spot. So storytelling plays for me plays a an incredible role on how to understand things, and then also kind of as a toolbox of references to go back like, oh, my mom's went through that, she survived. Okay, this little thing I'm going through, I'll survive and I'll be able to tell my grandchildren about it. And I'm going to shut up after this, but it's crazy that you asked that question because last night my grandson was getting his hair braided, so I sat down on the floor with him to keep him occupied. And this just goes into mental health. This goes into mental health. He says, well, people, I want to practice writing my letters. So he goes into writing his letters and he makes the 5, but it's a little off. It's not your traditional 5. So I decide I want to help. And he says, no, people, no, you can't, you don't know what you're doing. So you have to go back to school or you're going to get an F. And I don't know where he learned this at, but he's like, you're going to get an F. You're like, well, how am I going to get it? Do you even know what an F? He was like, yeah, F is when you don't do good. Now, mind you, he's 4.5. He said, F is not when it was when you not do good. And so my wife, the instigator braiding his hair, goes, yeah, people, tell me why you got so many F's in school. And I'm like, hey, hold on. I took that time instead of telling him about the F's that I received, I told him how I wasn't focused mentally, like I was too busy playing and not listening. You know what I'm saying? So understand that. I guess that kind of answers all the questions of the storytelling. How do you introduce mental health as a family stability, right? He got all of that in a matter of 30 minutes last night. I don't know if he's going to remember, but it's there. It's introduced to him. It wasn't like we sat down and said, hey, we're going to have a mental health conversation. He almost kind of introduced it. And I just jumped on the bandwagon and kind of changed his question into, oh, let me answer with this is why you have to pay attention. This is why we don't get frustrated and throw our toys down. This is why we don't hit our head. You know what I'm saying? So again, I know that's a lot, but it is so crazy how you asked that question. And all of this actually transpired last night.
I love that, and I love that tie-in. And I'm gonna add something to what you said because I love how you brought in the fact, right, that as storytellers, we're telling our story with our family, and then going back to therapy and therapy being a stigma. Here's 2 things that I want to help people to decipher from the 2, right? As a storyteller, when you're telling your story with your family is considered the co-authors. They're helping you to write that story. When you go into therapy, you are a solo author. It is about you and you alone, right? Now, your family helping to tell that story when you guys are together, help you to create or even help you to acknowledge all the parts and pieces of everyone's story that helped you on your journey. And that when I say helped you on your journey, that could be the good things and the bad things, right? Because all of it, the good and bad, are all a part of your journey. So when you go into therapy and with the right therapist, and I will reiterate, with the right therapist, therapy is just like trying to find a good doctor. You want to find the person that connects and fits with you, the person who understands you. And if you feel like that person does not understand you, if they're not helping you to tell your story properly, you need a new therapist. So, yes, come on, Smith.
No, I just wanted to say this to that point. Your story is your words, not nobody else's words.
Exactly.
They don't even have to, they don't even have to make sense. You know, that goes to that stigma. Forget that. It doesn't have to be perfect. You say it how you feel it. That's your story. And if it has to be chopped up words, or if they have to be run on sentences, or you know what, they may not even be in order. They may be every which way they come out. That's the beauty of you. It's like you are you. Your story is you. If you haven't read this book, it's called Brown Girl Dreaming. No, I'm sorry, I don't remember the author. Brown Girl Dreaming changed my whole concept of how a book should be written. I opened that book and 2 pages in, I'm like, okay, this is different. Like there's no rhyme or reason to how she wrote. She might have 5 words on one page and then a whole paragraph on another page. The words might be in the middle of the book or the middle of the page, but they might be just at the bottom of the page. They might be run-on sentences. They may be like 2 sentences just strung together with a comma. It is so beautiful and inspiring. I would recommend any young person to read that book, Brown Girl Dreaming. It's so different. And she tells her story so authentic in her own way. It is one of the motivations behind me writing my book. Like, it doesn't have to look like the books you see in the library. You know what I'm saying? Write it the way you want. Tell it the way you want. Use your own words. You don't even have to write a book. Put it on video and just spill your soul out talking. You know what I'm saying? Your way. It's your way.
That's the beauty in being unique and being an individual, right? You are able to do things how you see fit. I just wanted to make sure that we reiterate the fact that therapy can still be useful, and therapy should not be shunned upon because there is a stigma on it. And so that is why I brought that back up, because again, therapy is your story. It's not about your family story. You and your family having conversations in a household. You guys are the co-author of those books. You're merging the stories together. You're getting an understanding of the history, some of the whys. But when you transition into therapy, it is your own story that you are going in. And the idea is there should be a goal in all of this. So while it may not matter how you tell it, there is an end goal, but you're creating the end goal. So that's what I wanted to highlight, because I don't want you guys to think that just because there's a stigma that you can't go in and share it. And I want you to understand that it is your story, not just your family story. You are the solo author.
And I need to add to that. I know we're running out of time, but I need to add to that because Sis just said something. You guys probably didn't catch on it. You probably did. You're highly intelligent, but I caught it. She said you're talking about your why. That's a big thing right now. Your why can only be explained by you, right? The college that my son went to, their whole thing is live your purpose, which I thought was incredible. Like, you can only tell your story the way your why lays it out, the way the purpose lays it out. There is a reason, the why, there is a reason why you are happy. There's a reason why you are excited. There's a reason why you may have butterflies. See those words I use? Butterflies could be anything, good or bad.
Mhm.
You got to be mindful of the words you use when you're trying to talk about your why. Everything you may seem as negative is not necessarily negative, because you get butterflies whether you're happy or you're a little bit excited about something or a little bit nervous, right? So find that why, use the correct words, and then live your purpose, right? And the mental health energy is so incredible because for me, I had to recognize that it exists. You can't deal with something if you don't first and foremost believe it exists. You have to see it and be like, oh, okay, that's what that is. That's why I feel this way. And that's okay because that's my energy. That's my energy. And I have this energy because it just might be my purpose to help someone else find or how to use or manipulate this energy. See that? Manipulate your energy, right? You got one short leg, you got one long leg. You can't sit here and say, oh, I'm gonna walk crooked. No, what you do is you turn that limp into a cool walk. Now you got purpose. Now you got flow. Now everybody looking at you like, oh, that's the coolest cat out there, right? Not like, oh, they got one short leg, one long leg, right? So you got to manipulate what you got going on and then change that into butterflies. And those butterflies can do a lot more. You know what I'm saying? So I just had to say that, sis. I just
I
had to say
love
that.
that. I love that because even in that, right, the telling of the story and understanding your why, you can create 50 different stories by changing your why.
That's it.
And your why will change depending on how you feel in that moment.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
again, that's the beauty in it being your own story and you being
It,
the one to tell it because you get to navigate that story how you see fit. And it ties right back into what Smith said, that purpose. What is the purpose of you telling this story? That is what drives the why.
and the mental part about your story is you have to become vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because Sister Abigail just pointed on something, like when you tell your story. And I don't know how many people are here are Star Wars fans, but when this dude decided in 1976 to create Star Wars, had he been nervous about people calling him a nerd over science fiction, we would never have Darth Vader. You know, we would never have CP3O. You know, we probably wouldn't have a lot of these things that's associated to the cult of Star Wars, right? Imagine if Kendrick Lamar said, you know what? I don't think people want to hear what's going on in my head. I don't think they want to hear my story. You know, but his story is his story, and that's why it resonates so well. You know, I mean, you have to understand your story is yours, and it's not for everyone to understand or agree or like. But if Kendrick and old boy from Star Wars wouldn't have shared it, we would have never known, you know? So I'm not saying go out there and yell at the top of the world your story. I'm just saying, you know, don't think that it's wrong or it's weird. You know, don't feel shamed about your story. It's your story.
It got to start somewhere.
It starts somewhere, you know.
I love it. I love it. Maya, I'll let you do one more question.
Okay. Let's see. Um, I'm conflicted. Okay, I'll do this one. What would you say to someone who believes or who still believes mental illness is just an excuse?
A lot. Listen, a lot of people believe a lot of things. Everybody got an opinion. There's an old saying, but I ain't even gonna say it on here. Everybody got an opinion, and while we cannot change other people's perspectives, we just continue to have the conversations, right? And that's what platforms like these are meant to be. The continuation of those conversations, because we already know it's out there, right? People believe what they want to believe, how they want to believe it. You may be able to convince them to change their mind. You may not. But for me, I don't worry about what other people think or perceive. I look at what's best for me and my family, what's best for us in this moment. And I wish more people would think of it in that way. But yeah, that's a good question, Maya. But
I,
I'm sorry. Come on, Smith.
I'm with sis, but I'm at that age where I could care less.
Right?
You know, we live in a time, however, where the internet and social media has given every voice on this planet an opportunity to speak their mind. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like I said before, you know, I did this paper. The data I came across was of the 8 billion people on this globe, 6 billion have cell phones tied to a social media account. So what that says is me, if I say on whatever X or whatever social media outlet, hey, I'm struggling today. The sun is shining, but I'm gloomy. There's a good chance that one person of 6 billion wants to respond and is like, that's on you. That's just an excuse. You live in California. The sun is shining. Go out and get a tan or go surfing.
You know,
That's the reality of the world we live in. You know, it adds definitely to the mental health challenge. I firmly know that. It's not easy to be like me and sis and be like, I could care less, especially when you're 15 going through it. I understand. But, you know, um, I would say again, stay true to you and whatever you feel is your feelings. It's not nobody else's feelings to diagnose, you know, your feelings. Because here's the crazy part. Other people have an insane threshold for your feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, tough it up. Like, you don't even know me, what I'm going through, you know? So, and again, I understand the pressure that comes with the society we live in. But I will absolutely double down on sis and be like, I will go with that saying, and I'm not going to say it here, but your opinion you can keep, my man. I'm feeling what I'm feeling today. Take it or leave it.
absolute, absolute. And that's the thing with people who say things are an excuse, right? It's an excuse because it's not affecting them or their family in that moment. So they'll always say that something is an excuse. It doesn't mean that what you're going through is not real. It doesn't mean that your feelings are not valid. Just because they're not going through it, they'll always see it as an excuse, but that's their opinion. They don't have to live through what you're going through. So yeah, I take people's opinions with a grain of salt. Yeah, I'll take it with a grain of salt.
And not the Himalayan big chunk of salt. I'm talking about
Oh,
Morton.
not the salt rock. We're gonna do the fine salt.
Nah,
But
we
what's Salt
talking.
Bay?
Hey, the little itty bitty like salt that they give you on an airplane in a packet that you need like 300 packets of salt to make it even taste it. That's what we talking about. That's what we talking about.
You like that powder salt, y'all get Salt Bay.
Yeah, that's it.
I love it. Over to you, Ilani. You get to close us out. And before Ilani closes us out, I just want y'all to know, like, this has been a phenomenal year of Talk Tuesday. Y'all, this is the last Talk Tuesday until August. Look at y'all face right now. Look at
Huh? What do you mean? Okay, well, that makes me sad, but it's been really great. I love doing these with you guys and listening to what you guys had to say. I feel like, I've learned so much just like sitting here and listening. I'm so happy that I got the opportunity. Aw.
and I will say that you guys have done such a phenomenal job as hosts for Talk Tuesday. I cannot end Talk Tuesday without giving y'all your flowers. So you guys have come in, and the ones that were with us before that have since graduated and aren't with us anymore. So Jackie and Mark and Karen, like all of you guys have come in. Oh, even Samantha from previous, like before you guys started, there were two that were on beforehand. So all of you guys have brought so much to the table of Talk Tuesday, and we are so excited seeing you guys flourish. Like you guys really ran the show. So kudos to you guys for opening up, asking the questions, closing us out, like doing all the things. You guys did a phenomenal job, and we couldn't have made Talk Tuesday without you. To our students who have been part of Talk Tuesday, you guys have been awesome with your comments in the chat and sharing openly on the mic. Like you guys also have made Talk Tuesday what it is. To Smitty and Dr. Lytle and all the other co-hosts that have come on with us. It's because of you guys that we're able to continue to carry this. So thank you all for all of your hard work and dedication to Talk Tuesday. Thank you for making this a reality, because hey, students asked and I didn't know how to deliver in the beginning, but we done delivered and then some. So thank you guys for being a part of that process and seeing it through. To those of you who watch Talk Tuesday on YouTube or even watched it on Facebook, thank you guys for watching and even sending additional comments and suggestions and things that you wanted to see, because without all of those suggestions, that feedback, the impact, we couldn't do what we're doing. So thank you guys for another successful year of Talk Tuesday.
So would it be right if I don't say and extend my verbal flowers to these amazing young people? It has been first of all, sis, thank you for allowing me to share your space. Um, you know, I'm very mindful of that. And watching you flourish personally and what you got going on with all the work you do in your community is phenomenal as always. I'm never shocked when something pops off, or you got a shindig jumping off, or you get an award or whatever. You know what I'm saying? To the young people, man, you guys did that like really for real, for real. Like you held it down, you did your job. It was phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? And one day, just like Caesar has moved on to bigger and better things, you guys will too. And then, I just want you guys to understand like your power. You know what I'm saying? Your power is limitless. When you get off into the world, take these nuggets, take this work you've done, and do your part to leave your footprint, your legacy. You know what I'm saying? It is, you have the power to change this world, to sculpt it like you want. Yes, you, the single individual, you see what sis is doing. The single individual can get it done. You just gotta want to. And it sometimes it's gonna be hard. But it can be done, believe me. And I'm always here. Like I told Caesar, I'm not the richest cat, but but I got a full time and energy to offer whatever you need. I'm an advocate. I'm fierce. I want to change the world to make it a safe place for young people just like you. I want you to define your own success, live life on your own terms. You know what I'm saying? And just always be mindful, to take care of the people around you and even the ones you don't know, man. Just smile at somebody. It'll go a long way, change their life. Just smile at somebody one time. Even when you don't feel like smiling, smile at somebody. I promise you, you don't know the difference it can make in their life. So outstanding job, people. Sis, outstanding job. I love you guys to death. You know where to find me. I gotta go. I got another meeting at 4 o'clock in 1 minute. I love y'all. I'll tap in.
Bye. Thank you.
All yours, Elani, we promise.
Mental health is as real and important as physical health. Recognizing when you're struggling, reaching out for help, and practicing daily self-care are signs of strength, not weakness. Whether you're navigating your own mental health journey or learning how to support someone, remember this: your voice, your story, and your well-being matter. Before we go, mark your calendars for upcoming program open houses, whether you're just getting to know us or ready to join our youth leadership. Advocacy programs, this is your chance to see what STEP Foundation is all about. May 22 at 6 p.m., join us virtually for a convenient online open house where students and family can ask questions, learn about our programs, and see how we can support team leaders across the region. June 22 at 1 p.m., we're hosting a one in-person public open house at the Veterans Memorial Library in St. Cloud. Whether you're a student, parent, or community member, we'd love to meet you and share how we're building the next generation of change makers. To learn more about our programs, visit www.stepfoundation.org or don't forget to follow us on social media, Step Foundation Inc. You're not alone, you're not too much. You're not weak for needing support. Your mental health matters, and so do you. We're so proud to be part of a growing movement where young people are leading the way in mental health awareness. Keep asking questions, seeking the truth, and showing up for yourself and others with compassion. Thanks for being part of Talk Tuesday this month. Stay strong, stay curious, and most of all, stay true to yourself. Until next time, stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep leading the way. Bye.